Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Today's special guest we have with us is Abbie Cates. Hey, Abbie. She actually is in the woods right now, which I am just so jealous. So soak up those Mother Nature vibes for me too. And you're more than welcome to take the live stream floor.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Welcome, everybody. Like she said, my name is Abbie Cates, and today we are talking about how to make food easy. So as you can see, I am literally at a campsite. You know, schedules just worked out this way, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I decided if we're talking about how to make meals easy in a hurry when life is crazy, what better place to show it than I literally brought just a little bit of my pantry along. I have like 8 different spices or so, some soy sauce, some honey, a couple of utensils like spatulas, hard word, scissors, and some measuring spoons. And I don't normally use rubber gloves when I'm prepping, but since washing my hands is a little harder than normal when I'm working with the chicken and the salmon and the shrimp today, I'm going to be using rubber gloves. So really my purpose today is to show you that meal prep is super simple and you can even do it in the woods. But what I want to share with you is most of the stuff is from my everyday pantry. A quick agenda. I'm going to just chat for a few minutes. I'm going to give you a couple of meal prep tips, and I'm going to go over one of my favorite little hands-on lessons. If we were in person, I'd actually give you these things to touch, but we're not. So we're just going to have some fun with the camera. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 main dishes and 1 side dish I'm going to make today. My guess is it's going to take us like a half an hour to see all the food made. I don't have the recipes typed up right now, but I will get them. I have them here, but I don't have them ready to put on the Facebook. You can see these super simple recipes too. So let's just get right into it. If you were with us last month, we talked about how to design your menu to use common ingredients, so your meal prep planning becomes easier. This month, there's not really a lot of similarity in our ingredients, but there's a common theme, and it's simplicity. And so one of the things I like to share is that less isn't always more, but simple is always more. So if you go and do a Google search, you'll find like 5 million results in like 0.1 milliseconds for 3 ingredient recipes. And a lot of times there are things like a can of Dr. Pepper with your pork roast and ketchup in the crock pot, which is cool if you want to dope your kids up and your family up with sugar for dinner time. But I don't have good outcomes when I do that in my house. So I would say that simple is more. So using the simple ingredients like the honey or the pineapple, you know, you got your whole array of seasonings, your soy sauce, and we're using maple syrup today too. Those things, the simple is more really has a profound impact. And since I have a cooler to store my food in and I've got no pans, I'm going to show you how to do everything in Ziploc bags. So you'll be able to, if you don't eat it tonight or tomorrow night, you can put it in the freezer or in the fridge so it'll keep for you. So there's a huge amount of versatility in the recipes I'm going to show you and what we're going to talk about, and it kind of just works with your lifestyle, however you need it to be. But before we get into the food, this is a super dirty ice cube tray, but let's pretend it was clean. This could be one of your best friends in meal prep because you open one of those cans of tomato sauce and use 1 tablespoon, not tomato sauce, tomato paste. You end up using 1 tablespoon of it. And now you've got like 5 tablespoons left. You can put 1 tablespoon in each of these and freeze it for a couple hours and then pop them out and put them in a Ziploc bag that you want to label. We'll talk about why we label them later. And then whenever you need another tablespoon, you have it pre-prepped for you. You can do the same thing with herbs and oil, herbs and water. There's a chipotle peppers and adobo sauce work great for stuff like this. So you don't have to waste the rest of that can. So fun fact with meal prep, ice cube trays, awesome. Here's one of my all-time favorite things to teach about. So this is a bag. It really did have, honest to goodness, real chicken breasts in it. It doesn't have real chicken breasts now, but what it has is identical replicas of what those chicken breasts in this bag were. So I would normally pass this around and let you guys see the nutrition facts in the back and guess how many breasts are in this bag. So it's a 6.5 pound bag, and it says, and it's obviously from Costco, it says there are 26 servings per container, 4-ounce servings. So if you're doing meal prep and you know you need 15 chicken breasts, do you have enough chicken breasts in this bag? So you'd be like, oh, 26 servings, 4 chicken breasts, or 4 ounces per serving. Oh, I probably have like 12 chicken breasts in here. Well, not always the truth. If you saw me at Fred Meyer's this morning picking out my chicken, you would have seen what I was doing. Because in this bag, real life, there was a 13-ounce breast, a 12-ounce breast, an 11.5-ounce breast. So we're at 3 now. 14.5 dirty 13-ounce, another 12-ounce, another 13-ounce, a cute little 9.5-ouncer, and then an even cuter 8-ouncer. So if I needed to make prep meals with 12 breasts, I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3 breasts short, and I have a massive size difference. So no big deal to have a 14-ounce breast, no big deal to have an 8-ounce breast. Big deal if you're trying to cook these at the same time, because there's a massive size difference, particularly if they're coming out frozen. So I share this with you because in these bags of massive quantities, which are awesome for prepping, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. So when you're prepping this, you either need to cut this in half or you need to kind of like group them by size. So know that it's not always quite as simple as meets the eye. And for fun fact, this is 3 servings per the USDA serving size. So this giant breast, this is actually 2. They're 4 ounces as a serving. So a little bit more than meets the eye is necessary when you get into these big bags with prepping chicken. And it was a lot of fun to make big chicken breasts. So I'll show you what I do to avoid this problem. And if you guys have questions, and Elizabeth, if they pop up in the chat, feel free to interrupt me and we can talk about them. We can do them at the end. I don't care. Whatever works for you guys.
Sounds great.
So when we talked last week, or last month, we talked about common ingredients because it makes the planning easier. You'll see a lot of the recipes I'm doing today do have a common ingredient, and that's chicken. 2 reasons. One, I'm able to get it in the bigger bags, and I use tenderloins. I use tenderloins for a couple of reasons, because my kids they eat smaller sizes, but they're more consistent in size. So I avoid this big difference in chicken breast size problem by buying the tenderloins. And beef is really expensive right now, and it just didn't fit what I wanted to do this week. So we have 7 meals here we're going to make in 1 side dish. And this morning at Fred Meyer, I spent about $60. So it saves us a ton of money. A lot of the stuff was already in my pantry, so I didn't have to buy the maple syrup or the mustard or the lemon juice or any of the spices or the honey, because that's already available to me. Will cost more when you're supplying those things and getting them started, but otherwise it's pretty easy to get going. So let's just get into talking about some of these meals. The first one we're going to make, let me talk about this guy first. This is probably my favorite kitchen tool, and it is a Sharpie, and that is because labeling the bags is hugely important. We had a night in our house where we did mystery dinner, and I took all the unlabeled bags out of the freezer and defrosted them, and we ate what was in them. And some of them were not discernible, so they got thrown away. So I really encourage you to label your bags unless you want to do mystery dinner. I thought it was super exciting. My family was not super enthusiastic about it. So the first one we're going to do is a cream cheese chicken. And you know, when you label these, it's hard to write on a picnic table. Some people just write the name of the meal on, some people write the date, but what I like to write is the cooking instructions. So this is very simple. Crock pot, 6 to 8 hours low. I will double bag all of my meals because we don't need any leaking. But for this recipe, it's really as simple as we're gonna grab some chicken. Oops, let me put my gloves on so I don't have to run to the bathroom across the way and wash my hands. And when I was at Fred Meyer's, so I'm picking up different foods I needed to get. I actually decided I was going to use chicken breast, but I decided on the tenderloins because there were only like 5 or 6 chicken breasts in each package. And I was going like this, trying to count them and feel them and figure out how many were there. And I probably looked like a riot because putting them back and counting different ones. But all right, so these are actually huge tenderloins. I'm kind of surprised. So this is like probably a 5-ounce piece of chicken. So we're gonna do for my family, and knowing the meals I'm gonna make today, we're gonna put 5 of these bad boys in here, and then whoops, and then we will have enough. So this is so simple. Chicken. If you were measuring, I'd say like a cup and a half and a cube of cream cheese. So this is the simplest meal that I'm going to show you today, but it's really that easy. And then you put it in the crock pot, and I usually take the lid off the crock pot. One of my friends says that is like the worst thing you can do because that'll heat out. It probably is, but I do it anyway. And I take the lid off about halfway through and stir it to get the cheese all melted in, and the chicken starts to shred really easily. So here's one. Do it in the morning before you go to work, and you got dinner when you come home. For those of you that have crock pots like mine that cook at 4,000 degrees, and it takes only 4 hours to do a 10-hour meal on low. Something that works well is those light timers that you put on your lamps when you're on vacation, and you say start at 10 o'clock or start at 11 o'clock. So that is definitely an option. Plug your crock pot into that, and at 11 o'clock, it will turn on. It'll be ready for you to get home and not over dry. So here we go. Cream cheese chicken. That was number 1. The next one we're going to do is what I call Santa Fe chicken. So let me grab a bag and write it down. So this one is very similar to the one we just made. It's a crock pot meal also. The difference is it's dairy free. You can put cheese on it when you're done, but really you don't have to. So for this one, again, it's a base of chicken, but instead of, we'll have a corn blend and a peppers and onion blend to go with a little bit of seasoning instead of the pre-made salsa and the cream cheese. So let's get some more chicken. Oops, we got a 2-for-1 special here. Get some more chicken. I'm going to do about the same amount. Have to open another bag. Hi, Charlotte. One of my little she's riding her bike by the site. All right. So the chicken is loaded in. The next ingredient we are going to put in is corn. And you can use scissors to open the bag because it's easier. You can use either frozen corn or you can use fresh corn if you want to. You can use corn out of a can. If you use corn out of a can, I would drain it first. And again, this is really rough measurements because when I'm camping, but these recipes are so forgiving and so easy to use that you can add and decrease the amounts of stuff. So I'm actually just going to go the whole meal deal with the corn, and then I'm mixing in a pepper and onion blend. So normally for this recipe, I slice up peppers and slice up onions, and I do a medley of different colors of each and mix it with a taco type seasoning. But really, to keep it easy, this is just, when I read the ingredients, onions, green peppers, red peppers, and yellow peppers, frozen already for me. So I'm just going to add them in, and that saves a lot of time. And instead of doing the taco seasoning, I am going to do some cumin because I don't think the world has enough cumin in it. I am a massive fan of this flavor. So I'm going to put in about a teaspoon. And I sometimes adjust these as I'm cooking too, depending on how I'm feeling any given day. And I'm going to put in not quite a teaspoon of salt. And this can go, we can pretend that this is the crock pot and I can just put it in, put the lid on, be done with it. Or I can put it in the fridge until, you know, it's Saturday today, put it in the fridge until Tuesday, Wednesday, throw it in the crock pot. Or I can throw it in the freezer and in a month or 6 months or whatever, put it in the crock pot and you've got dinner. I've also made this one on the stove, just to kind of like simmer like a chili would, and it works just fine. It needs less attention in the crock pot, cooks faster on the stove. So, you know, whatever works for your schedule on any given day. So here we go. Meal number 2, what I call Santa Fe chicken, is complete. So we're going to mix it up now. We are going to do a shrimp dish. So this one, and you'll see I have a lot of similarities in ingredients like we did last month, but not as intentionally similar. So this next one is what I call shrimp fiesta. My husband and my son went shrimping, I guess it was last month, for those of you that have Northwest when shrimp season was open, and they came back with some beautiful spot prawns. And so I'm going to actually use those in this recipe. If you mine have shell on still, which isn't ideal, and a Ziploc bag is definitely not ideal, and you'll see why as we're making this. But shell on will work. We'll just have to peel at the dinner table, and Ziploc bag is going to turn this into more of a casserole. Normally I like to layer it with the shrimp on the bottom, and then we're going to put black beans and corn and more onions and peppers, and then have some salsa and some pineapple on it, so it has like a sweet savory flavor. So it has that nice layering in the casserole dish as you bake it, but that's not happening now. So I'm literally just going to dump it in here. And this one is, you can cook it from frozen. So it's $3.75 or $20, depending on how thick it is, to 30 minutes. So we got our shrimp fiesta. Our bag is labeled, and I'm gonna get my fingers covered up. When the guys came home from shrimping, my son really had a great time doing it, and he was really savoring the moment. So we capitalize on that for all of you that are parents out there, you know, when your kids are in that flow of helping out, to grab a hold of it. So we did. And he actually packaged the shrimp up for us in 20-pound bags. So we've got Cal's little shrimp here, but I could use one of these bags to do it. I'll use this as a double bag. So I'm just gonna take and put his beautiful, caught off of, if you're in the area, you'll know, caught off of Bainbridge Island spot prawns. I'm gonna put them right in here. And we're just gonna turn this thing into a big pile of yummy goodness by mixing it all up. So the shrimp, because they do have shell on, won't have quite as much flavor as they would if you bought them fresh at the grocery store, or if you bought them frozen at the grocery store. A couple of things to remember when you're buying shrimp is that you want to get the ones that are preserved with water and salt. You'll see there's a preservative called trisodium phosphate. It's a preservative, so it makes the fish, it's used in seafood products all across the board. It makes the fish stay better when it's frozen, but what happens is it's got surfactant. So as you rinse it off and as the shrimp defrosts, you'll see this shrimp still has great color. It had no preservatives in it. And it's not super limp. It's pretty solid for being a frozen shrimp. What you'll see with the fish that are preserved is they get really soggy and really limp, and their cell walls break down when they have the preservatives in them. So staying away from those preserved fish is really important. And the other fun fact with the scallops, if you get scallops that have a preservative in it, you will not get that beautiful brown on the scallop if you do them in a pan because of the preservative. So you want to get, they're called dry scallops, just salt and water. Then you'll get that beautiful brown and have a really increased flavor. So the quality of the seafood in my house is very important. I also recognize the quality of the seafood is directly proportional to the price. So it can get really pricey. So do what's comfortable for you. And we don't always buy preservative-free shrimp. It really depends on where we are in the world in the budget on any given day. So do what's best for your family and know that you're still giving them good stuff. So we're going to take the shrimp and we're going to get really creative here because I did not bring a colander to drain our black beans. So fun fact, I believed that I would be rinsing some of the sodium level off of the black beans when I rinsed them. I thought that was the purpose of rinsing them. So when I started, whoa, good thing we've got a little disposable surface. So when I started KnifeForkSpoon, I think it was in 2017, I was just starting to make food commercially to sell. And I thought I was making nutrition labels and I wanted to understand really what I was putting on the nutrition label and how it affected how this, whether it was drained or not, affected the food. So I called Del Monte and I called a whole bunch of black bean companies and said, how does the sodium level of the bean change when I rinse it? And I think every one of them thought I was crazy. I don't know if they've ever gotten this question before. But after talking to a lot of them, it doesn't, because the salt is infused into the bean during, just like if you home can, when you add that heat pressure process, it actually is infused into the food. So with that in mind, I'm mindful of what my beans are preserved in. So I try to get just salt because there's other preservatives that do go in these cans. It doesn't change the sodium level at all when you rinse them. So fun fact. So I'm just going to add, because I have a lot more shrimp than I would normally have in this recipe, I'm just going to put the whole can in. You know what? It's going to be a little bit gooey because we have the some of the syrup in there, but that's okay. And the same thing goes for the pineapple. The pineapple juice, I would normally drain off, but it's not quite that simple today. So I'm going to pull off as much of it as I can. And pineapple juice, I'm pouring the extra into my ice cube tray here, which I won't take home and freeze. But pineapple juice is one of those things that I don't use a lot of it, but when I need it, I want it. And I don't really want to go buy one of those huge, giant juice bottles of it because they're kind of pricey and I'll only use 3 tablespoons of it. So I freeze my pineapple juice in my tray. This is gross looking, but I'll just freeze it like this and then pop them out and save the ice cubes. So I'm going to put the pineapple in, and there we've got some pineapple to go with our shrimp, and corn and onion blend again. Got this going on. So we're gonna, it's like a kind of a Tex-Mex with shrimp. Is the inspiration for this recipe. Put that in. Put this in, and you'll see I don't have a lot of seasonings with this because I'm going to use the rest of our salsa jar as our seasoning. So instead of using spices at the table, after I peel the shrimp, I might mix a little salt over everything. But otherwise, there we go. Another meal made, and that would have been a lot faster if I didn't talk so much, but I liked it. So there we go. There is our third meal, a shrimp fiesta, ready to be double bagged. And for us, these are all going to go in the freezer, and we'll eat them. We'll eat some early this week, but then as the week goes on, we get busier in our house, so I'll use them probably in the next couple of weeks. So there we go. There's our shrimp fiesta. The next thing we're making is a spice rubbed pork tenderloin. So if I were at home, I would take this pork loin that I have and I would have it on a cooking sheet and I would mix the spices ahead of time, and then I would roll the pork in so it gets good coverage. Not possible today, so I'm going to actually put the spices in first and then add the pork and kind of mix it, and when I decide to cook it, then I'll make sure it has good coverage. But this one is very simple. Again, you just put it in the oven or the crock pot. My recipe, the way I wrote it, says crock pot. So we'll do crock pot 4 hours. So pretty easy. The recipe, I'm just gonna mix it up in here. It's 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Some days I'm more precise than others. 2 tablespoons of chili powder. My family does not like a lot of spice, so I'm going to actually measure the chili powder because they will not be happy with it. It's too spicy. There's 1. There's 2. Next thing we're going to put in is sugar. If you're not a fan of white sugar, the turbinado works. You could use honey. I would maybe not use maple syrup. It might have an interesting flavor. Might complement it really nicely too. So, whatever you're comfortable with. I have some monk fruit sugar at home that I've been experimenting with that seems to work well as a good substitute. Salt is the next thing that's going in. I'll get a fresh one because that one's kind of gooey. So I grabbed a smaller measuring spoon. So I'm gonna just eyeball it. And we've got onion powder, garlic, cumin, and I don't have cayenne with me, so I'm gonna use red pepper flakes. Onion powder has really absorbed a lot of moisture, so I have to do some crunching up. So there's onion powder. And I did not bring garlic powder, so I'm gonna use minced garlic. This minced garlic is a major favorite of mine because it's just preserved in water and citric acid. And it means I don't have to peel the cloves. I can just dump them in like that, which is really convenient. Cumin and red pepper flakes are the last 2 things we're gonna add. Running low on cumin. And then what I'm gonna do is close the bag and mix it up before I put the pork in, so it gets nice coverage. These red pepper flakes that I just added in, they were jalapenos from my garden that dried out, and then I put them in the food processor and crushed them up. So I decided to give that an experiment, and they seem to have worked fairly well. So mix this up. And I'm gonna grab my pork tenderloin. You can get pre-marinated pork tenderloin at the store for usually pretty good prices. So that is also an option for a fast meal in home. Keep my hair out of it. Still keep my hair out of it.
That could hurt somebody.
And then just gonna.
Hit my front tire.
Drop. Oh, there's 2 tenderloins in here. Surprise. Okay, so we're gonna get 2 tenderloins out of this. That would have been a big tenderloin had I been paying closer attention. But all right. And then I'm going to take a moment to close the bag up, and I'll use the bag itself to do the rub part. If I were at home, I would just do this by hand. So this is not going to be as equally covered as it would if I were doing it at home, but thrown in the crock pot, the juices will soak out and the whole thing will be nicely covered. Something is wet and slimy, so I'm gonna wipe my hands down real quick and then put this in another bag, and we're gonna move on to triple marinated chicken. So triple marinated chicken is one of these recipes that you can do really, really fast if you want, because when I call it triple marinated chicken, it is a Italian dressing, honey mustard, balsamic dressing combination. So you literally just add a cup of each to your chicken. When I've read dressing bottles. They're not my favorite ingredients. My husband actually, I said to him one day, hey, the kids are out of ranch. Can you please pick some ranch up at the store on your way home? And it took him a really long time. When he got home, I was like, that took a really long time. What happened? He goes, have you ever read a ranch bottle? He's like, they all had crap in them. It took me so long to find one that I wanted the kids to eat. So I have modified this recipe to be all real ingredients. So it's a combination of a premixed of honey mustard, balsamic, and an Italian that I've mixed together. So I'll show you what that is. So it makes it a little bit longer to make, but it does go a lot farther in the healthy department. I'm getting kind of giddy here, so I'm gonna put a new disposable surface down. So all right, here we go. I know for this recipe, I'm gonna need a spatula because I'm gonna be working with the honey. So I always just call this 3X chicken because it's a triple marinade, and this is one that goes in the oven. So I usually oven it at 375. If it's frozen, I'll do like 40 minutes. If it's not frozen, I do like 20 to 25 minutes. And feel free to freeze these with the marinade on, or just keep them in the fridge and pull them out. Either way works. If you do freeze it, you can let it defrost in the fridge the night before, and then you've got marinated chicken too. So we are going to put chicken in this. And I think this is one more chicken recipe after this, so I'll make sure I save some more chicken.
You can get the one-year-old if you want.
All right. Good one. And so what we're going to do, I'm using honey, Dijon mustard, balsamic, extra virgin olive oil, basil, oregano, thyme, sugar, and salt to be the combination of all of the different dressings. So, half a cup of honey. Where's my half? Here we go. It's fortunately nice and warm out. So the honey is pretty easy to work with. Fun fact about honey, the more local it is, the closer it is to your house, the better the health properties are, because you and it come from the same environment, and the bees provide you things that you can't get if you buy non-local honey. I mean, it's still good for you, don't get me wrong, but it's like the extra plus on top, like the cherry on top of your sundae if you're getting local honey. So here is a half a cup of honey in there. And honey can be gooey to work with. I've never tried it. I should just try it. That if you spray the cup with Pam or release agent or whatever, that the honey slides right out. So it might be good to try. But Pam didn't come with me on this trip. We're going to add half a cup of olive oil to this plain. It is a half a cup of mustard. I know one of my recipes later needs a little bit of mustard, so I'm going to save just a little bit. I'm just going to eyeball a half a cup of this. So now we've kind of got the honey mustard made. That's mixing in there. We're going to add the balsamic now to add that element of balsamic vinegar, balsamic dressing. This is a 1/4 cup of balsamic. Oops, I've got a food that's sliding off the kitchen table. Must want to be in the cooler. Okay, so that was the balsamic. That was easy. And now we're going to add the spices in. And we just made the equivalent of a honey mustard Italian balsamic. Lid doesn't want to go on. We'll worry about that later. Dressing. So let's do almost half a teaspoon. So we've got basil. Basil's another one of those, if you have it in your garden, just flip it off and throw it in the food dehydrator or the oven or on the warm cycle. Let it dry out, let it sit in the sun, let it dry out, smash it up, put it in your spice jar. You are good to go. That is where my basil came from. And then I know my thyme is super potent and it's not my favorite kind of thyme, so I'm actually not going to use the 1/2 teaspoon. The recipe calls for, I'll put less in because it will overpower. And then we have a little bit of sugar again, a little bit of salt. And then we mix this up, and that is our triple marinated chicken. So one more recipe, super fast. This one you do want to get a pretty good mix. If I were at home, I might mix the marinade in a mixing bowl first, but this also works. And so if you put this in the freezer, when it thaws, you just let it sit in the fridge, it'll mix nicely and marinate. Otherwise, you can just let it sit in the fridge. The tricky part with this is you might be able to see there's a clot of honey right here because the chicken's cold. It doesn't like to mix. But as it sits, the balsamic and the honey will interact and the honey will soften and it'll all get spaced out nicely and distributed nicely. So there is another one. We just got triple marinated chicken all taken care of. What's that?
You didn't double bag
I
that
didn't
one.
double bag. Thank you. And actually, that's kind of important because when these leak, they're a mess. And you will be shocked at how often Ziploc bags drip. Thank you. Got my camera late. This is the first time I had a camera person. Isn't this awesome? So I don't have to worry about my tripod and everything. All right, so we have done a cream cheese chicken, a Santa Fe chicken, a shrimp fiesta, marinated chicken. Let's do salmon now. Salmon is one of those things where, you know, when the Copper River run, it's $25 a pound. It is amazing salmon. It is also totally cool. What I'm working with today is Keta. It's a lighter color. It's not as red. It's still amazing. So I'm actually going to pull these out of here after I label it. And this is I call it a honey balsamic because those are the two main ingredients. And this is one that you'll do in the oven. I think that I have it at 400. And I would do, I have a bee visiting. Oh, he likes the honey. How funny. See, these are two really different pieces of salmon in size. So I would do like 7 to 12 minutes and just check it with a meat thermometer as you're going through the cooking process. I find meat thermometers to be indispensable, especially if you have various size meats. So we're just gonna pop these two in here. And a lot like the last recipe, it's very similar in name. The honey balsamic is a marinade. And this is it's not a lot. It's a very small amount of marinated. You don't really want to overpower the salmon. But this is, pardon me, one that you could cook the whole thing from frozen in a marinade, or even if you put this in a casserole dish, no reason to pull the meat out of the marinade. You can just cook this like a casserole. It works well that way because it's such a small amount. So we're just going to do a little shake of salt and a little shake of pepper on each fillet. And my kids aren't huge salmon fans, so I'm just doing 2 of these because it'll just be my hubby and I that eat them. And a little shake of pepper on there. And then we're going to put in 3 tablespoons of balsamic. 2, 3, and then see if I can get the lid on this time. Does not appear to be successful. Some honey. It calls for 3/4 of a tablespoon of honey, so I'm going to be generous and just plop some in. You don't want to be too generous though, because the honey will kind of burn and caramelize. Which, if you like it that way, that works. That's great. But again, this honey is, you can see it's stuck to one part of, tip it over, stuck to one part of the salmon. So it's not going to mix super well. So as it sits, it'll mix up. But when you pull it out to put it in the oven, you probably want to spread that around a little bit. And I am going to put a little bit of olive oil in. And that is a super simple splash to make some really amazing salmon. You keep the delicate flavor of the salmon, but you just add enough of a touch of flavor that for people that aren't into the super fishy type of fish, which I love salmon, so I don't see it that way, but some of my kids think it's too fishy for them. So got that fishy flavor with a little sugar flavor. So there is another one. We have remaining our maple glazed chicken and favorite garlic butter mushrooms. Save the best for last, garlic butter mushrooms. We'll talk about side dishes then. But here we go with the maple glazed chicken. That's weird. Can you guys hear me still? I'm going to continue like you can hear me unless you say otherwise. Elizabeth, if I'm broken, let me know. Okay.
You're doing good.
Okay, we're doing good. Sweet. Weird technology things. Technology is not my favorite, but you know, here we are in the 21st century. My kids are
it had cut out, I believe you were mentioning mushrooms.
Oh yeah, how they're my favorites. You guys actually didn't miss much. The garlic butter mushrooms are the last dish we'll do after we do this maple glazed chicken, and they are my favorite. So we'll talk about side dishes then. Oops, we just had a man down. Good thing it's double bagged. Okay, last chicken we're gonna do is maple glazed chicken. So I'm gonna put the remainder of my tenderloins in here. And these tenderloins in my book count as breasts because they're large enough. So here we go. Super simple. Again, we got soy sauce, lemon juice, garlic, ginger, maple syrup, and black pepper. So this goes back to the simple is more concept we talked about in the very beginning, that it doesn't have to be less, just simple ingredients. So a splash of soy sauce is all we need. So I'm gonna put in about a tablespoon. Mix that in. And there's 2 teaspoons. 3 teaspoons is a tablespoon, so I'm just going to do a scant tablespoon of lemon juice and 2 teaspoons of garlic. My garlic's getting kind of empty, so we'll just shake some more of that. Now, I'm a firm believer you can't have too much garlic. Love me some garlic. We're going to do a teaspoon of ginger. I'm going to find a clean one for this. A teaspoon. Ooh, I don't know if we have a teaspoon in here, though. I use ginger as part of my beauty routine, so I'm not really surprised that this is kind of empty. So, you know, we're just going to add what we have. I could have checked that before I left. All right, so we got ginger. Going to do a shimmy shake of black pepper. The black pepper will add a lot of flavor and some heat. So if you have people that don't like the heat, just back off on the black pepper. I added about 1/4 of a teaspoon, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon, and maple syrup. This calls for 2 tablespoons. That was a very generous 1 tablespoon. Very generous 2 tablespoons. So this is just like the maple, the honey balsamic salmon. This is a really small marinade. So you can mix it up and then just put it right in the marinade. No reason to pull it out. It'll just be ready for you when you put it in the oven. So you could literally take this now as it is and put it in a casserole dish. I line all my casserole dishes with parchment just for easy cleanup, and I prefer it over aluminum for a multitude of reasons. So here is our maple glazed chicken. And now we are going to get into one of my favorites. I don't know about you guys. If you have a family to feed, it might not be quite as easy, but there's some days where, it's really just like, I want to have vegetables for lunch or for dinner. So onions and mushrooms are my two go-tos when that strikes in my house. And I'll just saute them up with butter and garlic on the stove top. And so this recipe is literally that simple. Garlic, butter, mushrooms. I have a friend who's vegan. She said, oh my gosh, what about me? Whatever you choose to use as a non-animal product substitute works great in this. You could use coconut oil for a different flavor. If ghee is part of your regime, you could use ghee. So this has a lot of flexibility. And this is after you can just take all of these ingredients and dump them on the stove. I would take, it's 4 tablespoons of butter for every pound of mushrooms. So if I were doing this at home, I would just put the butter right in the stove and let it soften. And when it's all melted, I'd add the rest of the ingredients. Otherwise, for this, because I've made it this way before, I just put it all in the bag together. And when it's time to make it, I don't pull the butter out separately. I just put it all together in the saucepan, and the butter finds the heat and they all blend nicely together. So I have a pound of mushrooms here. So 4 tablespoons of butter. I don't think a human can eat too many mushrooms. We love side dishes. And I did a blend of button and the cremini baby bellas for this, just for a little flavor blend. Gonna finish off our garlic that we've got going on here and get it all out of here. And if you're a very precise measurer, I know sometimes I want to be more precise with my measurements in the kitchen. 2 tablespoons is what I use in this. And if you're not precise, just feel free to dump the jar in, like I just did. And then we're just going to put a little bit of salt in. I'm going to get out my dry measuring spoon so I'll get any moisture in there. 1/4 teaspoon there. And same for the pepper. So I'm just going to shake the pepper in because I don't want to take the lid off. But there we go. So you can do the beauty of side dishes when you have a recipe like this that you love with the garlic and the butter, salt, and pepper. You can do it with onion, you can do it with mushroom, you can do it with broccoli, you can do it with cauliflower, you can do it with whatever you want. So when you find that blend that you like, then just mix it up. Another thing to do is you can add lemon juice at the end after you're done cooking for a nice little spike of flavor. It just really is an opportunity. Side dishes are a great place to get creative. So as a quick recap, because those are our recipes, we have made garlic butter, shrimp, maple glazed chicken, honey balsamic salmon, triple marinated chicken, the spiced rub pork, shrimp fiesta, Santa Fe chicken, and cream cheese chicken in whatever that time is. I can guarantee that it would be less if you were working by yourself and not talking the whole time like I was. So there you go. How to do some really simple meals. I'll get the meals posted for you in the next couple of days that still really don't compromise your quality of ingredient that you're putting in. You can take them to whatever your level. If you want all garden fresh, you can do that with this. If that's not feasible for you, which it's not in my world, then you can use whatever you're comfortable with and still have some great meals. So that's what I had for you guys today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Hey, folks, what we might do is end the live stream, just so if anyone is not comfortable being on Facebook, totally understand that. So we're gonna end the live stream here. So let's say goodbye to all of our Facebook Live friends. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us, guys.